Hey everybody, it's Cherri Gregg, host of Real Talk with Cherri, live on Facebook every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. On this episode, we talk with a mother from West Philadelphia whose entire family was infected with COVID-19 when her teenage son refused to listen to the social distancing guidelines. It could happen to anybody. She walks us through her journey. Take a listen right now, watch it, and share this video. Thanks so much. Real Talk with Cherri.
First of all, how are you doing, sis?
Excuse me. I have to keep clearing my throat because I'm still coughing, but I'm getting better every day. After week one, after down a week, which felt like being on my deathbed, then I went into the hospital, and that's when like everything got really, really dark. I could barely breathe, but this is my third week, almost going into my fourth week of being sick, and I'm still like, because I have pneumonia in both of my lungs, I'm still not 100%. I'm getting better every day, and I'm pushing myself to be better, but I'm not 100% better.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, like, this is week 3 for you.
Yes. Yep.
And
this is going to the end of week 3.
Yeah, and your symptoms began April 12th, you said.
Yes. Sunday, April 12th. That's when my symptoms began. I have asthma, so I was in my kitchen cooking, and I had shortness of breath. So my shortness of breath, I just pulled out my inhaler and took a couple of puffs of it, and then I kept on cooking my Sunday dinner. But as the day went on, I kind of had like a little headache, and I really just couldn't take a deep breath. So my niece, she went to my sister's house to go get a brand new nebulizer, which, you know, gives you a albuterol treatment. And she brought it back. I had popped my kids popcorn. I had rented Trolls live through the TV so that they could have their movie night and got their popcorn and everything. And I laid down on the couch while they were watching the movie, and I took the breathing treatment, and then I was cold. I had the chills, and I just kept on asking everybody, like, is it cold in here or is it me? And I was underneath the blanket, and they're like, my niece like, it's hot in here. And my son like, well, I don't have any clothes on, so I'm cold too. And I just was like, okay, I'm short of breath, but I do have asthma. Now I got the chills. That's not a good sign. And then the next morning I woke up. And because I slept on a couch, my whole body hurt. So again, I'm still questioning myself, like, my body hurt, but I did sleep on the sofa. So I dragged myself in my kitchen. I made my smoothies. I dragged myself upstairs to the shower. And everything in me was saying, if it's ever a day that you're going to call out, your body is telling you to call out today. But it was too late. You know, I'm a professional person, so I know it's, you know, improper to call out less than 2 hours before you're scheduled to be at work. So I was like, you know what, let me take my temperature. I have a thermometer, but the battery was low. So my temperature was like 100.4. And I'm like, let me just go to work and use their thermometer, because in our building, we don't allow people in our building unless we take your temperature. Everybody that comes through our door, we scan, we take their temperature. So I said, let me go use their thermometer. So when I got to work, I had the girl that was in there doing the door that day, I asked her to pass me the thermometer. I didn't want to come inside the building. I told her I would take my temperature myself. And I took it, and it was 100.2. We don't allow people in past 100.4. So she was like, well, you still can come in. I said, no. I said, give me the hand sanitizer. And I took the hand sanitizer, and I wiped the entire thermometer down, and I gave it to her. I passed it to her through the door. I said, I'm not coming in because I really don't feel well.
So you kind of knew. Did you think it was COVID-19 at all in all of these symptoms?
When I got up that Monday morning on the 13th and my body was hurting with the chills, I rarely get sick. I was like, these are the symptoms. And, you know, when you hear the CDC and the Department of Health and they're speaking about it and they say flu-like symptoms, because I'm living COVID-19, I see why they say flu-like symptoms. Because if I verbally tell you what I'm feeling, it sounds like the flu. I have body aches, I have chills, I have fevers, I have sweats, I have headaches, I have some coughing, and those are flu symptoms. So that's why they say flu-like symptoms. But I want people to know, do not get that confused with the flu. It just sounds like the flu. When you experience it, it feels nothing like the flu. It does not feel like it.
Right here, and just like back up, because we're going to go in, because eventually you end up in the hospital. But before we go there, now you have been exercising, social distancing. You have been doing a lot of the things.
My mask. Yeah, I wouldn't go anywhere that wasn't essential. I go to work. I come home. I wash my hands. I take off what I wear at work. I wash my hands. I wear my face mask. I only go out to the market when I need to get groceries. I only go to the to the gas station when I need to get gas, and I wear a mask and I wear gloves, and I know about cross-contamination, and I have hand sanitizer in my car, so even when I'm in the grocery store, the gloves that I have on in the grocery store, I take them off before I get in my car. I use the hand sanitizer.
You did everything that you possibly could. Now, you have 4 children.
Yes, I do.
But and you talked, did you have the talk, your boys, 2 of your boys are here. Did you have the talk with them?
Well, honestly, this one, my 7-year-old, he's so intelligent. He had been with his grandparents a couple of days before this started. So he was with them for like a whole month. And I missed him so much, I went and got him that Sunday. I said, we have a movie night at home. I'm going to get up.
Symptoms, yeah.
Right. When I was having shortness of breath, and I just thought it was my asthma, because if I would have known, I would have left him where he was. So he didn't have to get sick too. So when he got home and he was standing in the kitchen, and I said something to my niece about coronavirus, and he was like, "You talking about the coronavirus?" And I was like, "What do you know about the coronavirus?" He said, "Well, I know that the flu kills more people than the coronavirus does." And he's 7. He just turned 7, March the 26th. And he said that. He said, "I know the flu." And he's had the flu twice, and he almost died the first time he had the flu. So
wow.
he gets really sick, like when he does get sick. But he said that, and I just was like, "You're so smart, like I don't, I haven't spoken to him about the coronavirus. He's been with his grandparents for a month." But he knew. He said the flu kills more people.
So your kids knew about it. Was there an awareness about, did you talk to them about social distancing? Don't bring friends over. Like, were y'all exhibiting all of that?
I was trying to, but I have a 18-year-old, and, unfortunately, they don't, a lot of the teenagers, they're not taking it serious at all. So I was coming home, and, he was still going places. He was still going to Airbnbs with his friends to parties and stuff like that. And I kept on saying, you need to stop going places and practice social distancing. And I would ask him, like, where are you going? He's like, oh, I'm going to such a place. I'm like, you need to stop going places. He's like, oh, Mom, it's not that deep. It's just not that deep. And I'm like, you need to stop going places. And then that week, he had a few people here, one of whom ended up being sick, saying that she was sick when we were sick. And I'm like, Dad, she was in our house earlier this week. So that's where, where it probably came from.
You believe that the friend that your son brought in actually gave the coronavirus to the family?
I do think that, because I was practicing social distancing. My 12-year-old hasn't been outside at all, and I was practicing social distancing, wearing masks, wearing gloves, hand washing, and that's who I had to remind to keep telling, stop going places, stop going to people's house, and wash your hands when you come in the house, and use hand sanitizer, and wear your mask, and like that was him just coughing. So these two are still coughing too, just like I am. My 7-year-old and my 12-year-old, and they can tell you how they felt.
Yeah. And do you think, and so we'll go over that, because it could have, we don't know where it comes from. Like, it could come from.
Ultimately, you really don't.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the scary part. And, and I think that people are underestimating that part. I've gotten to several Facebook arguments with people about social distancing and following the CDC recommendations, and they're like, oh, well, it's just not that serious. And honestly, it really is just as serious, because you just don't know. Somebody may not have any symptoms, and they may give it to somebody, and that's the thing that people need to understand. That's why the guidelines are in place, because it may not, put you down and make you too sick, but the person that you give it to might succumb to the virus. And I don't want to die because somebody else didn't practice the guidelines correctly. That's just like, I don't want to go to jail for somebody else committing a crime. I don't want to die because you didn't practice the proper guidelines. That's the problem that, we're having with these kids and the youth and a lot of people with the social distancing and the guidelines that the CDC has set in place.
Yeah, and I have to say, a lot of people are in here. A lot of people have tuned in. They say greetings. Hello, Clarence. Hello, everybody. Delilah says hello, Rashida. Lots of people saying hello to you tonight, Rashida. And a lot of people were pulling for you just because there was a point, like you got sick on the 12th. You drag yourself down a couple days later and get tested. And then you come back positive a couple of days later. What went through your mind when they said, yes, you got COVID-19? Did you already kind of know that?
I knew when I went and got tested. I knew. Please don't do that. I knew that Monday when I got up and I called upstairs to my manager and I told her what I was feeling. I told her what my temperature was downstairs at the door, and she was like, "Okay, you have to call the occupational health phone number." I called them, and the nurse that answered the phone, she was like, "There's a 90% chance that you do have it. Like, you have the classic symptoms." And I just knew. I did. I just knew. And I went home because the testing site at my job was closed that day because it was such a bad storm. So they had to close down our testing site that day. And the people from occupational health, they were like, "Well, can you go to the testing site in Center City?" And I was like, I could, but I was like, my body hurts so bad, I want to go home and lay down. I said, I'll wait until.
And we're going to point out that the locations of some of these testing sites was inconvenient if you're sick, right?
Yes. They wanted me to drive downtown, and I'm like, the one at my job is closer to me, but I didn't want to drive downtown feeling how I was feeling, and that's the thing about it. It's like, okay, you call your doctor, you tell your doctor what you're feeling, and then they order you to go to either a lab if they're not associated with a hospital, or they tell you to go to a testing site that is associated with their health system. But if you feeling this bad, it's like, I'm going to have to put somebody at exposure rate to get me to where I need to go,
Yeah.
And I think people underestimate that.
You coughing, you got body aches, you get yourself to the testing site, and then you get positive, you kind of knew, and then you end up in the hospital. When did you say to yourself, I need to go to the ER?
Okay, so Friday, my symptoms started on Sunday the 12th. I got tested on Tuesday the 14th. My results came back the 15th, that Wednesday, that I was positive, but I already knew I was positive anyway. So Friday, I had my son make me a cup of Theraflu. He put a packet of vitamin C in it. I had been drinking vitamin C all that day, like a lot of it. He made me a cup of tea with vitamin C, black seed oil, sea moss, garlic, and ginger. And I drank it.
You put everything in there. You put everything in it. And honestly, my fever went away. I felt good. Like, I could get up. I could move around. I was like, and I had been bedridden since Tuesday. I had been stuck in the bed. And I was just like, I was like, Dad, that made me feel so good. Let me get up and take a shower. I got in the shower. That's when I knew. I almost passed out. I had to literally run out the shower, dripping wet, naked, and throw myself on my bed, and it took me 2 minutes to catch my breath. I felt like a fish out of water. I was like, this is not normal. Like, that just came out of nowhere. I just was only standing in a shower. And that continued to happen through the weekend. If I would try to climb the stairs, or if I would walk from the table in the kitchen to the zinc in the kitchen. And I started, I was taking my pulse ox. My friend went to my job to pick up my medication because, of course, I couldn't go inside. And I asked the girl in my office, I said, can you go in my office, get my pulse ox, and take it downstairs to the pharmacy? I said, and I'm going to call the pharmacist. I'm going to ask the pharmacist to put it in the bag with all of my medications. So that when my friend Brenda all this medication and it still didn't work, and on that Monday you go to the hospital.
Yeah, so I was sending my doctor messages over the weekend, updating them on my symptoms. I'm like, I I'm having a hard time catching my breath. It's taking me like 2 minutes for my oxygen to come back up to the 90s. And then Monday morning, I'm going to say about 4 o'clock in the morning, I went to breathe, and I was getting sharp pains in my back. But see, I'm a clinical, by trade, I'm a clinical medical assistant. I'm a certified medical assistant, although that's not my job position currently. But I am still a certified medical assistant, so I knew the signs of pneumonia. So when I was breathing in and I was getting the sharp pains in my back, I was like, this not normal. So I sent them a message, and then she called me as soon as she got into the office, the nurse practitioner, and she said, Rashida, I need you to go to the ER. She said, you have to call first.
That's when I saw you in the ER.
Yep.
And then you had a host, and this, tell us the host, because you just you got diagnosed with pneumonia in both lungs.
In both of my lungs, and that's why I couldn't catch my breath, because the pneumonia had set into my lungs. But I knew from the updates that my health system sends us every day about the symptoms. And, I've been following the CDC guidelines and, watching some of the stuff on TV and the news and reading on the internet. So I know that this virus attacks your respiratory system, and it'll get into your lungs, and it'll cause pneumonia, which is a lot of reason why people are dying. So when I was having that problem, the hypoxia, and me not being able to catch my breath, I knew. So I was sending them messages, and she said, and even though my oxygen, I told her, I said, well, my oxygen, when I'm sitting, it's like 97%. I said, it's only when I move. And she called me, she said, Rashida, you can't just sit there and not move so you don't lose all the oxygen in your lungs. She said, I need you to call the ER, and I need you to go. And that's when it got
and people are talking right here, and I just want to point out that because the COVID-19 has killed more people than the flu. At that time, the numbers keep going up. I just want to point out COVID-19 has killed more people than the flu. People were wondering about that. That's a fact. But so you ended up in the hospital. That's when I saw you with the oxygen on your mask. They had to give you oxygen.
Yep.
Did they give you any medication while you were in there?
Yeah. So they started me on Plaquenil, which is hydrochloroquine, which is the lupus medication that they're using for treatment. But honestly, they said that when the nurse gave it to me after I was admitted, when I was in the emergency room, they took my temperature. When I got there, it was 100.7. So I did have a fever when I arrived. And they put me on oxygen, and they took my urine, they took my blood, and then they sent me down for a chest x-ray. My chest x-ray didn't reveal anything. They had to send me back to radiology to give me a CAT scan of my lungs, and that's how they found the pneumonia. But they treated me with Tylenol at first for my body aches and for the fever. And when I got admitted, and I got to the hospital probably like 12 something, maybe 1 p.m. And then they admitted me at about 5:36 is when they told me, they was like, we're admitting you. You have to stay. We need to treat you. And when I got out there,
you had to be by yourself. Because when you
isolation.
Everybody who's just tuning in, and we have quite a few people here watching along, but you basically have to be alone. You couldn't have nobody in the hospital with you.
No, and I'm so thankful to all of my Facebook friends and family that called me, and they would FaceTime me, and they would watch my lives, and they would, just all the prayers and the well wishes that kept on coming, and they actually boosted my spirits back up, because when I had to be admitted to the hospital, that was a very dark moment for me. It was. I just felt like I'm alone, and I'm going to die here alone. I really, really felt that dark, and I just was worried about my kids, because even though I have a 22-year-old that'll be 23, I have an 18-year-old that's about to go to college, I still have a 7-year-old, and I have a 12-year-old. And I just was like, I'm going to die here alone, and who's going to care for my kids like I care for my kids? And I'm like, nobody's going to care for them. I can't really get help with them now. I'm like, that was a very, very dark moment for me. And when I was laying in the hospital bed, so I actually had 5 kids, Cherri. One of them passed away when he was 6 months.
I'm sorry.
And he had chronic lung disease from being born prematurely, so he was always on oxygen from the day he was born till the day I took him off life support when he was 6 months. So at a point when I was falling off to sleep, I was thinking about my son because I couldn't breathe. And I was like, Dad, this is probably what my son felt his entire 6 months of being alive. Like, he struggled to breathe for 6 entire months. And I fell asleep. And that was the first time. My son died February 26, 2004. That was the first time in years that I actually played with my baby in my dream, Cherri. That was like, I played with him. He laughed and he giggled. And remind you, he had a trach the entire time he was here on earth, or breathing tube. So I never heard his voice. I never once heard his voice. But in my dreams, he laughed. I tickled him. We played and he cooed and he laughed. And I woke up and I just was like, I can't die. I can't die. I can't die in this hospital.
You know,
but that was a dark.
It's almost like your son was like this angel, literally, that brought you out of this dark place that you would have. Because people, I've talked to so many people who had it, and they got to this moment where they literally thought, I'm not gonna make it, and then something had to bring them back.
Yep.
And it's like your son did this.
Yep. And that's how I felt. And when I woke up, you know, I woke up, I was like, I can't go that dark. I can't. I have to fight that. I have to fight this, and I have to survive for my kids. And even when they discharged me, a couple of days later, I came home and I sat down on the couch and I cried because I honestly felt exactly how I did when I went in. I didn't feel like they did anything. They gave me Plaquenil, but even the nurse, when she gave me the Plaquenil, she told me they don't know if it works. They don't know. Everything is trial and error.
I mean, and by the way, share this video, y'all, and tag a friend. This is Rashida Patterson. Her story has resonated with so many. She is a survivor of COVID-19, a mother living here in Philadelphia who walked through the fire. She's still going through it right now. And so, Rashida, did you feel like there's no known treatment for this? Did you feel confident that they even knew what they were doing for you?
No, I didn't. And like I told you, I am a healthcare professional, so you know, they came in with different treatments for different things. So this is what I want to tell people. So when you go into the hospital and patients that have COVID-19 and they have body aches and they chill, they can't move around. When you can't move and get up like you usually move around, you're at risk for two things. You're at increased risk for blood clots, and you're also you're at risk for muscular deterioration from not moving your muscles. So when I was in the hospital, when I first got into my room and the nurse finally came in, she told me that they ordered me Lovenox, and that's a blood thinner. So a blood thinner is a gift and a curse. It's like it'll prevent you from getting blood clots. It'll thin out a blood clot, but if you get cut on it, you'll bleed a lot. You lose a lot of blood.
And I just want to point out, I've had surgeries before. I've been very sick before, but I always had someone with me, because when you're sick, it's like it's hard to even think about making all of these decisions. They pumping you with medicine, they're doing this, they're doing that. And how were you able to support? How were you able to keep your head clear?
I relied on the knowledge that I had acquired over the many years that I've been in healthcare, but I was alone, and I was in a excuse me, I was alone, and I was scared. I don't even like IVs. I usually have my kids natural just so I don't have to get an IV, because once somebody put an IV in my arm, I get needles all the time, every day, all day. I cry when I get an IV. So when they put that line in me and then had to hook me up, I was losing it. And I had to be there alone, you know, and I went on Facebook and, you know, I tried to show people, like, this is what it's like having COVID-19 and going into the hospital. You will be alone. Yeah. If you're going to die in the hospital, you're going to die alone, because you have to be in isolation. Even when it comes to delivering babies right now during this time, they only let your spouse up, like, when you're about to deliver.
That's crazy.
Like that in the hospital.
Part. I want to say hello to everybody who's here. This is Rashida Patterson talking about her journey to surviving COVID-19. And so your kids also, because I just want to, you're in the hospital. When did you hear that your kids were sick too? Or were they sick from home?
We all were sick within that 24 hours. And that's something else I wanted to stress to everybody, how fast it spread. I got sick on Sunday with shortness of breath. My niece's grandmom called her and told her to come bring a bowl, and she made me some rice and gandules and come get it. My niece went over to her grandma's house to get the rice and gandules, gave her grandmom a hug and a kiss. Her grandmom has it. She's in the hospital right now. Her great-grandmom has it. She's in the hospital right now, and her grandfather has it. So in that 24 hours, it spread through the 5 people in my home and the 3 people in her grandmom's home. That's how fast it spreads, and that's why we need to practice. Yeah, and that's why we need to practice the social distancing and the mask and the gloves, because it literally spreads that fast. So if anybody's on here and they're watching and you still think it's not going to be me, it can't happen to me, it literally spread that fast through 2 houses.
The silver lining here, though, is the fact that your sons, your children, they got it. And I want to introduce your 2 boys here that are here.
Okay. This is Ace. He's 7. And this is Ethan. And Ethan, he's 12.
So Ace and Ethan, you 2 both. Ace, how you doing? We'll start with you, Love. So you got sick too. How did you? What were your symptoms, and how did you feel?
When I first had coronavirus, my head was hurting. When I first had, it was out like at nighttime, like a lot of days ago. Like I had like coronavirus. I couldn't sleep.
And then how did it make your chest feel?
It made my chest feel hurt, but the last few days started to get better.
And now what are you doing? Are you still coughing?
Yeah. When Mom was in the hospital and I was on the phone with her and I hanged up, I started crying.
You were scared.
You were scared. What were you thinking about? What was on your mind when your mom was in the hospital with the oxygen in her nose? What did that make you feel like?
I thought her was not going to make it.
Yeah. That was a scary time. What did y'all, and so Ethan too. How you doing, Ethan?
I'm fine.
And so you had coronavirus too.
Yeah.
So what were your symptoms? What did you feel like?
I had a headache and my chest would hurt when I took a deep breath, and I was also coughing, and that was just the coughing.
Yeah. Were you and you kind of the video is frozen a little bit, but were you worried about Mom? You back now? Were you worried about Mom? What was your mind when your mom would FaceTime you guys from the hospital?
Well, it would be a week to see my mom's face, and when she was not there, there were 3 feelings I had. The first feeling was I was scared because I didn't know what was going to happen to her. My second feeling was but I was also confident because it's my mom who has survived this long and carried 4 children on her back single-handedly. And just to get myself off, just to stop making myself feel scared and uplift myself more, I would also feel excited because I would think if she survived, she would tell this to our grandchildren. I would tell this to our grandchildren. It would be like a great story.
Yeah. And so you think about all you paying attention to the news, did everything, all the things that news people, what were you hearing? And then having your mother in the hospital at the same time, how did that make you feel?
When I first heard about it, I thought this was going to be like a thing in China. And then when it started spreading, I was like, okay, so it's getting a little bad. Hopefully it doesn't get to Philly. Gets to Philly, I'm starting to worry, but I'm not that worried. When it hits my mom, that's where I start panicking on the inside because it doesn't really affect kids. It doesn't really kill them, but for the elderly, it's scary for them. So I was kind of worried about her.
And your mom isn't elderly. Your mom is not elderly. She's far from elderly. I love it. But it's just, but if your mom was older, if your mom was elderly, she might not have survived.
Yeah.
She might not be here. And it's because probably she is a younger woman that, she's much older than you, but a younger woman that she made it. And did you think about social distancing? Does this sort of you're 12, Ace is 7. What was your understanding of that, and does it kind of stick in your head now?
Well, social distancing wasn't really like a thing I thought about because I'm just a natural person that likes to stay in the house. I did start going outside when we got out of school, the cleanse for coronavirus. So I thought that was going to be my big break to like go outside more, but then everything happened and I'm right back where I started. So it wasn't really a problem for me.
Okay. And to all of you, and you could put Ace in here too. I mean, are you all nervous about going back? I mean,
yes. Soon as I heard that my mom had gone to hospital and had coronavirus, my heart was like panicking.
But going forward, are you afraid to go outside? They're not afraid to go outside. I can tell you that because at 11 o'clock this morning, I rolled over on the couch and I looked and he's wheeling his bike outside and he has his mask on. He's like, I'm going around the block. I've been taking them to the local park and taking them outside to let him ride his bike around a couple of times just to give him some fresh air because they're getting cabin fever in here. So, but they know to go outside to do anything, they have to wear their mask and they have to wear gloves and have to take it off when they, before they walk in the door. So they are getting used to that. But they're social distancing. Ethan already was a social distancing person. He don't really be around people. He's a kid that stays in the house. Little baby over here, he has cabin fever like so bad. He's calling people like, I'm coming to your house for a week. On this day, I'm coming to your house. But he does understand. They do. They understand that now that social distancing has to be a thing. And I already had anxiety, but my anxiety is triple what it was. And unfortunately, my kids suffer from my anxiety because I inflicted on them. I have 4 black boys. It's a lot of black boys getting killed in our city. So anytime they say they're going somewhere, even though my oldest son doesn't live with me, I'm always like calling him in the middle of the night, like, where are you at? Are you in the house? It's late. You should be in the house. I'm already that mom already. And then with this, my 18-year-old, he just came in the door from work. He was going to work, and I'm like, well, where are you going? He's like, I have to go to work. I'm like, well, what time you got to be there? He like 4. I'm like, well, it's 2:30. Why you leaving so soon? Like, where you planning on stopping? Like, he didn't go nowhere. If you're not going to work to the supermarket to get food for the house, you can't go. And I'm sorry, but it has to be like that. They're talking about opening up the country and the city and the state slowly. I just don't see that being a good thing. I'm very, very nervous about that. I project that the numbers will increase drastically when they do that because I don't think that we're ready. As a city, as a state, I don't think that we're ready. We have not been collectively observing the social guidelines, the social distancing, and the no contact orders. We have not been practicing them like we should have. And with them opening up the city with, it still being a joke to so many people, I fear that the numbers will drastically increase very, very rapidly. Honestly,
and I want to jump in here, Rashida, because there's still confusion. I mean, you had coronavirus. Your kids had coronavirus.
Yes.
You are in recovery right now. You're in week 3. You're a bona fide survivor. Looks like you're gonna make it. Thank the Lord, right? So are you getting it again? Because there's back and forth discussion over whether or not you have immunity, whether you don't have immunity. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. So because I work in healthcare and science and medicine is something that I've practiced for many, many years, I do believe that your body builds up antibodies to fight it. But I do feel like after the summer comes and then the fall comes, coronavirus will be back. I think people have misconstrued what the CDC is saying when they say the second wave will be more deadly than the first. They do not mean that there's going to be another coronavirus wave. What they mean is that this virus even though it was made in a lab, because it was coronavirus, regular coronavirus mixed with some other things that created this strand of COVID-19, as we all know from the news. So what's going to happen is when the regular flu season comes, this will be here with it. That's why they said the second wave, because it's going to be two deadly viruses at the exact same time.
And we don't know, and that's the thing. It's like they don't know a lot of things about. There's all kinds of theories about where this virus came from. There's all kinds of theories about what it could evolve. But that's the scary part, right? Because we don't. There's no certainty. There's all these
because they
theories.
just don't know. And I just wanted to say, for all the people out there that are watching, and just share this live, because I just want to say, for all the people that say, oh, they're going to create a vaccine, they just doing this to create a vaccine to inject something in people. I just want to explain that when children were dying in large numbers from smallpox and from malaria and from varicella and the measles, they created vaccines because there are no cures for vaccines. They had to create a vaccine to build up prevention of contacting them. So it's going to be the same thing with this. Everybody's thinking like, oh, this is going to be over eventually, and then we'll go back to being normal. No, it's a virus now. It's in circulation, and they're going to have to create a vaccine to try to prevent people from contracting it and dying from it. And that's what people need to understand. The virus is here now.
Yeah. And back here, 4 years. I think the shortest period was 18 months. We could become a mass society. So you got home. You're home now. You came home. You've been cooking again, moving around.
Well, when I came home, honestly, I sat on the couch and I cried, because I went from thinking that I was going to die in the hospital to thinking that I might die at home with my kids, because they released me and I still felt exactly the same way. So I told you, in the hospital, they gave me Lovenox and they had me on oxygen 24/7. But I still felt the same way, and I just felt like they weren't really listening to me in the hospital, which is, I think that's a lot that contributes to the number of deaths. When you are diagnosed with COVID-19, they tell you to go home, self-quarantine, and to take care of yourself. I am a healthcare professional, so I knew the signs and symptoms to look out for of when I was getting worse. And I knew, and I was sending my doctor messages almost daily. But a lot of people, the average person does not work in the medical field, and they're not going to know. They might think it's just the normal things for the virus, and then when they get to that point where they feel like they're going to succumb, that's when they're getting to the hospital, and they're probably getting there too late, because you are told to go home, self-quarantine, and take care of yourself. And then that's why a lot of people are coming back.
You feel, and I have a couple of friends who had COVID-19 and they didn't want to go to the doctor. They said that they were more afraid of going to the hospital, and so they just toughed it out at home. But that could be the wrong decision for some people.
It's right. Like, it was bad. Something that, please. It was a bad decision for me to keep sitting there and just not moving so that I wouldn't be short of breath. And when my provider called, she said, Rashida, you can't do that. She said, because what happens is that's probably pneumonia, and I'd rather be safe than sorry, because it could sit and then it could turn into sepsis.
Yeah.
You can't just sit there. Your pneumonia can turn into sepsis, which will kill you. You cannot. She said, you can't. She said, I'd rather be safe than sorry. I hope that that's not what it is, but I'm sending you to find out if that's what it is, because you can't just sit there and to not be hypoxic. So you can't do that.
And I have to say, Rashida, one thing, a lot of people don't like to share stuff like this, especially people of color. Like, we like to keep all
everyone hush.
We don't like
all the dirty secrets.
Why did you decide to, because it was courageous, number one, to say, look, my whole house is infected. This is crazy. I'm in the hospital, and to show yourself in the hospital. Why did you do that?
Because I want people to know that this virus is real and this can be them. And I'm a real person that a lot of people know. And I want them to know that it's real and it really can be them. So many people think that it can't. And honestly, my son, he's probably up there now upset because he walked through here that I'm on a live, and he didn't want to tell anybody. And when I was on the phone telling people that I had coronavirus, and he like, stop telling people that. That's not nothing that you tell somebody. And people are treating people like it's HIV, or they're treating people like it's the plague. And honestly, that spreads it more. When you keep something under wraps like this, you need to tell people, because you need to tell everybody that you were around that possibly could have been exposed. That's how you cut down the numbers, and people don't understand it. They're so embarrassed to tell people that they got it, and you can't prevent it. It's nothing you probably did wrong to get it. It's not. You weren't, it's not like you had bad hygiene or you had unprotected sex or anything like that. It's not an STD. It's a virus. It's just like any other virus, like the flu or anything else. And people do need to speak up when they have it, because you do need to inform all the people that you were in contact with. And that's the important part of it. Do not keep it under wraps. And I'm just that type of person that, if I feel like other people need to know for their safety, I don't care how embarrassing it is. I'm going to tell other people, because they really need to know, and they need to be able to protect themselves. And we have to get in front of this virus. And that's what people don't understand. Keeping it a secret and keeping it under the wraps when you have it, and you was in a store and you was coughing, and that's how the numbers keep spreading, and it keeps us behind. We need to get in front of the virus and be proactive. Just like I knew not to go inside of my workplace how I was feeling, because I would have possibly exposed everybody inside of my workplace. But
and I will tell you this, because your story, I mean, like, you were so real, and it was shared many, many times. This story has resonated with people of all races, both genders, all cultures, and I think the reason is because most people do not. I mean, I think what happened to you and your family has happened to a lot of families, and nobody would stand up and say that. And it was like a fear that people have, And I think you telling your story and you being on the live right now, talking to folks, and share this video and tag a friend, tag people with kids, because this is real. Like, we have to have these discussions, especially as we are gearing up to reopen the country. So you're feeling okay now, but you still coughing.
I'm still coughing, and I'm having a lot of vertigo attacks, like back to back. I already suffered from vertigo attacks, but I think it's just an imbalance because of the fluid that's in me right now is setting off an imbalance of the fluid in my body, the fluid that's in my lungs, and it's causing me to have a lot of vertigo attacks. So it's a slow recovery, but I'm recovering. My doctor, he said, I'm not clearing you to come out back to work until you're 100%, because I do have asthma, and he doesn't want me to further spiral down trying to move too fast. So I'm home and I'm cooking for my kids and, stuff like that. And I'm slowly getting back to how we were. But honestly, we will never be how we were. I will never be how I was, because I'm afraid now. I'm highly afraid. I don't want my kids really going anywhere. I don't want to go outside. I don't want the world to go back to how it was. I don't even want to go outside. I still only want to go out for essentials, even if they, I know the doctors at CHOP are using the plasma from employees that have had it to treat patients that are coming in with it. And it's been working. It's been shortening their sick time, the amount of time that they heal from the virus. So it's been proven to work. They're doing a trial over at CHOP. But even with that, even knowing that I might have the antibodies within me, I'm still terrified. They talking about opening up Finger Pressure Mall on the 9th. That's the stupidest thing that I feel like the stupidest thing that I ever heard. Why would you open up the most public place? There's no way they can control the numbers of people. The mall is just way too large, and
it's hard to do any kind of tracing. And I want to, y'all, if y'all have questions for Rashida, we have just a few more minutes. I want you to post them in the comments, and I'll feed you a few questions. Let me give you some feedback, Rashida, of what people are saying about you. There's lots of comments here. And folks are saying, Kareem is on here. He says, hey, cousin. I'm so glad you're home and you're doing better. And we say thank you, Rashida, for telling your story. They are praying for you and your family. Delilah said it's so scary that a person can have few or no symptoms and walk around here spreading. We also have Rochelle says, thank you for sharing your story, sis. Very informative. Lots of people are saying thank you. How long were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital for 3 days. I went in on Monday and they released me Wednesday evening.
And you felt like you should have stayed longer.
I felt like I felt like I should have, but you know, I'm Muslim, so I'm a little bit spiritual, so I felt like Allah brought me home to heal myself because they weren't really listening to me in a hospital. You know, I told them that I become hypoxic only when I move around, like climbing stairs. So they had the nurse put the pulse ox on my finger and walk me around the room, and my oxygen didn't drop. But I told them it's when I climb, you know, I try to ascend and then descend. So
why don't you think they listen to you? What was it? Why do you just think this? Because a lot of women complain that they don't feel like they're heard when they're getting treatment in hospitals.
I think that nurses sometimes feel like it's just a job and they just there to follow whatever order the doctor left for them, and they just want to follow the order and then just turn the patient around. They be trying to just turn the beds around, get the patient out, just turn it around. And I don't really feel like I was ready to come home, but I think Allah made it for me to come home because I told you I came home, I sat on a couch and I cried because I was like, I can't take care of my kids still because if I get up to move, my oxygen is still dropping down to 80%, and it takes me almost 2 minutes for my oxygen to come back up. You know, you lose oxygen for a good period of time, it will cause you to be brain dead. So I was scared. I was terrified. But somebody sent me something about black seed oil, and honestly, you know, you're probably Christian, I'm Muslim, but in the Quran it says that Nigella sativa, which is the plant name for black seed, is the cure for everything except old age and death. And somebody sent me for to use black seed oil, 1 part of black seed oil to 5 parts of olive oil, to heat it up in a pan, and when it gets hot, turn it off and inhale it. Ever since I did that, I could breathe. I'm talking about we went from me being in a hospital to me coming home feeling the exact same way to me still feeling dark about dying from COVID-19 because I still was very much hypoxic. And I just looked at my kids like, my baby, he was like, he hungry. My older son, he was doing homework. And I'm like, Dad, my baby about to cry because he's hungry. He's talking about he doing homework, so he can't really stop and feed him. I have got to push through this for my little kids. And I looked at my phone. I said, I'm going to get up. I'm going to force myself to do it. And I did. And I dragged myself in the kitchen, and I did. And I've been breathing better ever since.
Praise God for that. I want to say, we only have a couple more minutes. So Rashida, your story, and thank you, Ace, and thank you, Ethan, for being on here because your story is just so compelling. I mean, anybody could be you, and you are everybody. You know what I'm saying? You are everybody. You're every woman. You're every man. And I think I'm just so happy that your children are okay. How's your niece? Is she okay? And my grandmother.
My niece, her grandmother's still in the hospital. Her great-grandma's still in the hospital. Actually, they're about to transfer her grandma to a rehab because she hadn't been walking around and moving and stuff. So, you got to learn to walk and stuff all over again. And then her great-grandma's going to a rehab. But my niece and my son, they had the loss of taste and the loss of smell. My niece still can't really taste. She only can taste on the tip of her tongue. And some people have said that it took them like a month to get their sense of taste back. But people need to watch out for that because one of my little cousins right now is walking around saying that she can't taste and smell, and she has COVID-19, and she's still going everywhere and
doing everything. She feels fine.
They haven't been tested. Still going here, there, everywhere. So.
Yes, and I just want to say, people say they're just. So they treated her for pneumonia. Yes. Everybody's in tears. hearing your story. People didn't know about the muscular deterioration. Lots of good questions. Yeah, how long do you think it'll take before you have any idea? Because you've been 3 weeks now and you're still not 100%.
I don't. So my doctor, he wants to have me tested again. So he said that we'll have another visit, a video visit on Monday, and depending on how I'm feeling and what he determines at that time, he'll send me to get tested again. Because the reality is they don't know how long people will test positive. Now, every place of employment is different, but my place of employment said that 72 hours with no fever and 8 days from the day that your symptoms started, you can return to work. But my doctor, he said no. After 8 days, I was in the hospital. The 8th day, I went into the hospital. So.
Yeah. And your video froze up, Rashida. Your video froze up, but and I think we might have we don't hear your audio either, sis. Oh, you came back. I can't hear your audio though. I can't hear your audio. Yeah. She reconnected. But yes, thank you. Can you talk again? Say something, Rashida. Yeah, we don't hear you. But I have to say, y'all, I mean, shout out to Rashida Patterson. You are amazing.
Thank you.
I was in prayer for you. And I'm so happy to see you home.
Can I say something?
Yes, go right ahead, Ace.
Whoever's watching this, please don't catch coronavirus.
Y'all heard that from the mouth of Ace. 7 years old, just turned 7 years old, March 26th. And he said, don't catch coronavirus. And so with that, we're gonna shut this down. But I just want to say that your family opening up like this is going to save lives, Rashida. Thank you for coming on Real Talk with Cherri.
It was my pleasure. I do.
You.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
And I feel like the more real stories people hear, the more serious they will take it.
Yes, and that's what this platform is for. This is for real stories, real people talking about real stuff. And right now, COVID-19 is real. It's our reality. So, but you can survive it, y'all.
Yes.
Most people can survive it, and they survive.
Yes, you can. Everybody need to get some black seed oil in their house. Yes, you can.
Black seed oil.
Black seed oil saved me. That's my testimony.
And if you got a link to it, Rashida, DM me and I will post it on this and say, Rashida says black seed oil is the everything. So with that, Rashida, thank you so much for being on Real Talk with Cherri. Thank you to Ace. Thank you to Ethan. I wish your entire family the best. And please, when you're back to 100%, please contact me. We'll do a follow-up because I'm telling you, people want to hear about you. I'm talking about the most shared story across our entire news network. That's how much your story resonated. And I thank you for doing that and for being, for trusting me enough to tell that story.
No, the pleasure was mine, honestly. It really was mine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, love. Bye, Rashida.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye. They were the best, y'all. And I just have to say thank you to everybody who tuned in. Please share this video, y'all. Share this video. Tag a friend, a mom, a dad, somebody with children. This is what Real Talk with Cherri is about. I will be bringing you real people. You know, I don't know like tons of famous people and all that kind of stuff, but what I do best is bring you the stories of real people that you can relate to. Rashida is just like me. She's just like you. She's just like your neighbor, your sister, your mother, your auntie, everybody, your child. And it could happen to you. What happened to her? Her entire house infected by COVID-19. And it spread so quickly. She was hospitalized for a few days, came home, had moments where she thought she was going to die. This is why we need to social distance. This is why we need to wash our hands. This is why we need to check on our loved ones. And this is why we need to take this seriously. So with that, I want to say this is my give back to our community. This is why I do what I do, because we will not just survive COVID-19. We're going to thrive when we get to the other side. And so please check me out next week, every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 7:30 here on Facebook Live. Tag a friend, share this video, let folks know that we need to save lives, because as we reopen this country, this state of Pennsylvania, this Commonwealth, we're going to have to take social distancing seriously. We're going to have to mask up. We're going to have to do all of our things because we want to stay alive. So with that, I am Cherri Gregg, and this has been another episode of Real Talk with Cherri, and I will see you on Monday, right? Same time, 7:30. Thank you so much, guys, and have a wonderful night.